So a UX researcher, UX designer, what's the difference? The difference is in the process, but there's a huge amount of overlap. So remember, whether you choose a path of UX research or UX design, you're going to be working together very, very closely, because part of that whole process or the journey of building a new product or new service or new feature in a website or app or software is about discovering the problem and then building it. So those two components, those two areas of work must work in tandem. So that's why whichever path you choose, you're going to be working together and you're going to have to understand each other's roles. Now, UX research is more in-depth user discovery of the needs, the pain points, the friction points, and making sure that you can not just understand them, but analyze them, synthesize them, report them back and share them so they can be actually implemented and actioned. UX research and UX design is like a relay race where you're going to hand over to the next runner and then they're going to continue the race. So you're going to hand over the report to the UX designer, but not just hand over, but actually present it and explain exactly what the users wanted in terms of their feelings, their needs, how they used the product, what was the friction in using it, and what they thought of it. So all of that, including how they actually physically engaged with it, where did they click, why did they not click, how long did it take them to use the product or that user journey. All of that goes to the UX designer and the business analyst and your service designer, and everybody gets to hear your feedback. And then the UX designer will think, okay, how do I build this solution? So the user said they don't like the location of, let's say, the subscribe button, or they don't like the images on the above the fold part of the homepage. So what images can we use? They need to start to think about that based on the feedback. Users may have said, we don't like the image because it's too dark, or the messaging of the image isn't very positive or not in line with the brand that we associate it with. So for example, if it's a real estate company, why have they got an image of a ocean or the sea? It has nothing to do with the property itself, especially if you're selling in London or New York. Now, UX researchers and designers, they also need to understand how they're going to work together. So you agree on the ways of working. So you're going to agree, okay, this is how we're going to work. I'm going to interview users. I'm going to write a report in one sprint, i.e. in 1 week, or sometimes the sprint might be 2 weeks. And the UX designer will say, okay, as soon as you have some findings, I will start to iterate, and then I'm going to give you back my iteration. So my mock-up, it may be made on Figma or Sketch. Now, if they're using a prototyping app, it means that UX designer also knows how to code. Otherwise, it will be Figma or Sketch or a similar one like Adobe XD. They'll build a clickable prototype, and then the UX designer will ask you, can you go and test it again? And so this cycle continues, and you go back and test the new iteration or the new improvement, and then you're going to again run the process of deciding what method you're going to use, interviews, focus groups, click testing, ethnographic field studies, whatever it might be that you think is right. And there's a video on what methods you should use below, so don't forget to watch that and subscribe. And then once you've decided on that method, you go through the user testing or usability testing on that new design or that prototype, or it may be a minimum viable product. So this is what we really want to build, and we're going to improve on it later. But this is the basic functions of what we're trying to build based on the first round of UX research. So the second round is the user testing or usability testing of that feature or that whole journey. Then once you've done that, you report back to the UX designer and the rest of the team and say, right, this is what the users need, this is what they're expecting from us, and this is where we've got to really iron out more of the issues that we didn't realize. So sometimes when you have your first round of research, you discover the problem, but once you build it, it may be a different experience based on how the UX designer and the developers had to code it, and it's different to what you actually were expecting based on the feedback. So for example, let's say the user said, we wanted the app to be faster, but they weren't able to build it faster due to technical reasons, then you're not going to be able to provide that solution. In that case, all you need to do is ask the UX designer and the developers what the problems were and how we can work around it and make it i.e. maybe redesign it, go back to the users again and say, is there another feature we could include? For example, let's say the process of completing a form is on 6 pages and that's taking too long for users. Can you make it a shorter journey of 2 pages or 3 pages? And would that work for users, or do they expect? And just a key point here, it doesn't matter if you create a user journey that's multiple page, as long as the users find it comfortable. So it doesn't have to be a 1-page form. Let's say it's an application form for applying for a visa or a passport or a driving license. It doesn't have to be 1 page. It used to be that 1 page was the solution. It can be multiple page as long as you have the journey defined so the users know where they are, where they're navigating on that user journey. So you include a journey map for the users and they know exactly where they are. That reduces tension and friction for users, and they're happy to complete the form on a multiple page journey. So that's absolutely fine. So that's what you discuss with the UX designer. They'll tell you if that's feasible, if they can do that and design it, and whether it works from their experience as well. Also get the feedback from the UX designer. They're very experienced, so they also can suggest solutions that you may not have thought of or users may not have thought of, and that's why you work together so closely. The other thing to think about with UX designers is UX designers have a different point of view to UX researchers. They're thinking about design needs, you're thinking about user needs directly from the user, from the horse's mouth. They are thinking about how can I design this so it works for the user but also for the organization. So there may be issues in designing that it may not be as easy as we think it is. So we may want something, they may not be able to implement it in the design. So just hear them out, listen to the UX designers and why they may not be able to do what you know the users want. So there may be a reason why they can't design it in a certain way. It may be the information architecture, the hierarchy of the page, or how it doesn't flow with the design of the page or the pages. So there may be reasons they can give you. That's why you need to understand both roles and decide which one do you want to be. Do you want to be someone that wireframes, designs, or do you want to be someone that talks to people, engages with people more? UX designers nowadays, less and less engagement with people. UX researchers, more and more engagement with people. So decide which one is right for you. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video and hit the notification bell and drop any questions you have. This is 1UX1. Thank you for watching.